We're talking 10 surprise cut candidates for our Detroit Lions. Preseason games coming up here on Friday, and right after that, they're cutting down to the 53-man roster. So in this video, I'm going to give you players who I think would be a surprise cut and why. The Detroit Lions are back here, and the NFL season is about to begin, so make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the latest Detroit Lions news and rumors. That's what it's all about, folks. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. My first surprise cut candidate is going to be Craig Reynolds, and recently I've seen some articles talking about Craig Reynolds could be a player whom the Detroit Lions could cut, but I do think it's quite a reach. He didn't play in preseason week 1. He was taking all the snaps in preseason game 2 as the starter. He can do multiple positions. He can play for a David Montgomery role. He can play for a Jahmyr Gibbs role. Now, he's not elite in those positions, not at all. He's not super fast, not super strong like that, but he can play in those roles. And when you're looking at the rest of the depth chart, we're talking about Jermar Jefferson, Devin Ozigbo, and Benny Snell. Are you telling me that they would be above Craig Reynolds? It's really difficult for me to look at it that way. I think that's a little bit of a pipe dream. Next player who I think should be a surprise cut candidate, and that's Chase Cota, the wide receiver undrafted out of Oregon. Chase Cota has done nothing but great work here in preseason. He has been the taller Tom Kennedy, killing his routes and literally catching every single football that comes his way. And when you look at the depth chart for our Detroit Lions, we do have some issues here upon the wide receiver group. Amon-Ra St. Brown is clear number 1, but Chase Cota, Marvin Jones Jr. hasn't really done a whole lot in training camp. Khalif Raymond is out there doing a phenomenal job being Khalif. Jameson Williams is going to be suspended for the first 6 games. And you look at the other receivers besides Chase Cota, Antoine Green, he's shown some flash. But Trinity Benson, nothing. Dylan Drummond dropping a lot of footballs. Maurice Alexander, as a kick returner, not much as a wide receiver. Jason Moore and Avery Davis, that's what I see when I see that. So I think he should make the roster with that. But let me know in the comment section, will Chase Cota make the roster? Why for yes and for no? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let's continue on here with another player I think would be a surprise roster cut, and that's Romeo Okwara. Now, we've been hearing mumblings that, potentially he could be a cut candidate, but when the guy took a pay cut, and you look at the edge position for the Detroit Lions, they got a pretty damn good one, but he's sitting there to me at edge number 6. Aiden Hutchinson, clear number 1. Charles Harris looks to be number 2. Joshua Pascal, whom he just drafted, good to go there. John Kaminsky, the stud himself. James Houston's definitely making the team. So you got Romeo Okwara and Julian Okwara. And I think with what they're trying to do with the pass rush, having Romeo out there is the veteran presence, someone who you can trust a little bit more than Julian. I think he makes the roster, in my opinion, and I think that's the way it should be, in all honesty. So, for me, I have him making the roster. It just makes a lot of sense, if you ask me, in my opinion. Let's continue on here with number 4 surprise cut candidate would be Starling Thomas. Starling Thomas, undrafted rookie. He's done a really good job in training camp. He's had a pretty good preseason. I wouldn't say it's the greatest in the world, but he showed flashes. Not only has he shown flashes in the secondary, but as well as special teams. And if you're trying to make the roster, that's where you got to get it done. And I think the upside for Starling Thomas is much higher than under other individuals on the football team. If you look at the depth at the cornerback position, Cam Sutton is your clear number 1. He's going to be the guy who's going to be out there and getting the job done, taking on the main wide receiver for our team. Manuel Mosley injured, but he's going to be cornerback number 2 when he is healthy. That's not a problem. C.J. Gardner-Johnson is your nickel corner. Now, it's going to be switching out, obviously. We know this. But just for depth chart purposes, he would be your nickel corner. Jerry Jacobs back up to Emmanuel Mosley. He's definitely making the roster as an outside corner. Then you got a couple roster spots, right? Starling Thomas, who I really like, and same with Stephen Gilmore is your cornerbacks 5 and 6. You mean you got other corners on the roster, Khalil Dorsey, Chase Lucas, and Colby Richardson, but when you look at it, I like Starling Thomas to make this football team. It just is, to me, a depth player with a higher ceiling, someone that can make this team like a Jerry Jacobs did a couple years ago. I want you guys to spam the comment section today. Why is that? Well, the Lions are nearly here. And so spam the comment section with hashtag Lions. Show the pride as week 1 nearly approaches. Number 5 player who I think would be a surprise cut here is Levi Onwuzurike. Why do I got him as a surprise cut? Because Levi Onwuzurike has been getting it done regarding his injury. He's playing. He's actually playing, and when you invest at a second-round pick to a player who has done everything he can, at least this offseason, OTAs, minicamp, training camp, preseason, to make the team, you got to keep him on the roster, in my opinion. Is he a bubble guy? I guess you can say that, but when you look at the depth at the interior of the defensive line, Lee McNeil, clearly. Isaiah Buggs, clearly. But it gets a little bit of wishy-washy right there, right? You got Levi Onwuzurike, who I think has a higher up ceiling. Christian Covington has done what? Nothing. Corey Durden, a little bit. Benito Jones, a little bit. Chris Smith, who? So I think it gives that Levi Onwuzurike making this football team. It absolutely does. It makes sense. He's working. We need rotation at the interior defensive line. He makes this team. I'd be surprised if he's cut. Number 6 here, I got Anthony Pittman, linebacker. Now, initially, about a week and a half ago, I said he could potentially be cut with the Julian Okwara thing. But now with him doing special teams, we already know he could do that. But he played well in preseason game 2 as a backup linebacker. And the linebacker room is much improved with the development from our coaching staff, Shepard, to our players, as well as the players on the field. Alex Anzalone, clear number 1. Derek Barnes, major step forward, going to be on this team. Jack Campbell, 18th pick, going to be on this team. Malcolm Rodriguez, number 44, played well last year. He's going to be on this team. And then you got Jalen Reeves-Maven and Anthony Pittman. I think all of them make the roster. I think Jalen Reeves-Maven and Anthony Pittman make the roster. They could do good on special teams, as well as they are good for absolute depth that is required for the linebacking room. Another player whom I think would be a surprise cut is Riley Patterson. There's going to be one kicker that makes this football team. And let's be clear here, nothing has happened in preseason to change it. And why do I give it to Riley Patterson? We traded for him. Romo hasn't really done anything. Riley Patterson hasn't really done a whole lot either, but in training camp, it's even, it's a tie, so I go tie to the Patterson. That's what I think it will eventually be, because when you trade for a player, and there's a little bit more known about Riley Patterson. He's played in the NFL. Now Romo's played in the NFL years ago. He's got a big leg, but he has had trouble with the closer kicks. So I'm going to go ahead and give it to Riley Patterson. So I'd be shocked if he does not make the 53-man roster. Let's continue on here with Will Harris. Why would I be shocked for Will Harris to be cut? It's not the reason you would think. The reason I think it would be a shocker that they cut Will Harris is because he somehow managed to be on this football team for years. I don't understand it. Now look at the safety position here. Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, Tracy Walker. He's not above them. You already seen the corner position, right? We already seen the cornerback position. Would you take Will Harris over Starling Thomas and Stephen Gilmore? No. You would not. Would not do that. So the reason I have him being a surprise cut is just because his name is Will Harris. I got to see it to believe it. He should be cut, but for whatever reason, the guy has been on this football team and has made it for many years. Go ahead and add me on Facebook at Mike Kimber. I'm posting Lions information on there. All you got to do is search my name. My face pops up. Go ahead and add me as a friend so you can continue to get the Lions content that you really do enjoy. Another player I think would be a surprise cut is Julian Okwara. Not because what you think. The reason why I think it'd be a surprise cut is because I heard rumors weeks ago that they would trade him. And I just talked to my guy from Chat Sports who he's hearing a lot of rumors that the Giants are going to be trading for Julian Okwara. So I don't think he'll get cut. I do think he gets traded. I think that's a realistic thing. He'll probably play in this final preseason game, and then after that get sent to a team potentially like the New York Giants. So for him to get cut seems a little bit off. Last player I think would be a surprise cut is Obinna Eze, the offensive lineman for the Detroit Lions. I'm not going to lie, though. If he's cut, am I going to cry? Absolutely not. Because you look at the starting role for the Detroit Lions, their starting offensive line is great. Taylor Decker, Jonah Jackson, Frank Ragnow, Big V, Penei Sewell, Graham Glasgow is your guard who can play center. But after that, it's butt cheeks. Kawad Awusuk, Matt Nelson, Jermaine Ifedi, Brad Cecil, Darren Paulo, Alex Mollett. Now you got Colby Sorsdale, the rookie. He's going to make the team. He's learning. Ryan Schwalba and Max Persher. Really. So I'm surprised that it'd be Obinna Eze who would get cut. Because Matt Nelson sucks. In all honesty, they could really completely change the offensive line depth in 53-man roster. But I had to pick somebody, and that was the guy who I picked right there. We're going to be live for Lions versus Carolina Panthers Friday night, 7:30 p.m., all the way till the game is end. That's why you want to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on that content. With that said, folks, adios.